On the cold streets of London, 18-year-old Amara thought rich men only destroyed lives, until a mysterious 45-year-old billionaire offered her a marriage contract that looked cruel, but slowly became the most dangerous love she had ever known. Rainwater dripped from the bridge above while Amara curled herself tighter beneath a torn gray coat. Her stomach hurt from hunger. London traffic roared nearby, uncaring. She watched couples hurry through the rain with warm coffee and expensive umbrellas. Then a black Rolls-Royce stopped beside the sidewalk. The back window lowered slowly. A handsome older man stared directly at her with calm blue eyes. "Get in," he said softly. "You're freezing." Amara hesitated. Men with money always wanted something ugly in return. She stepped backward, clutching her small backpack tighter. The driver opened the door anyway. Warm air escaped from inside the luxury car. The man removed his expensive wool coat and handed it toward her. "You don't have to trust me," he said quietly. "Just survive tonight." His voice carried no pity. Somehow, that frightened her more. Inside the car, Amara tried not to stare at the leather seats or crystal water bottles. The man introduced himself as Alexander Laurent, owner of Laurent Global Hotels. She nearly laughed. Everyone in Europe knew his name. Billionaire. Powerful. Untouchable. "Why help me?" she asked carefully. Alexander looked out the rain-covered window. "Because once, someone should have helped me too." The answer felt painfully honest. Alexander took her to a luxury penthouse overlooking the Thames. Marble floors. Giant windows. Silence everywhere. Amara stood awkwardly near the entrance while a housekeeper brought warm food. She ate slowly at first, then desperately. Alexander pretended not to watch. But she noticed his eyes soften when she finally stopped shaking. "You're younger than I expected," he murmured accidentally. Amara froze. Expected for what? The next morning, Alexander offered her a strange deal. Marriage. 1 year only. In return, she would receive security, education, money, and protection. Amara stared at him in disbelief. "You're insane." He almost smiled. "Probably." He explained his dying father demanded he marry before inheriting the family company completely. "I need someone invisible to high society," he admitted. "Someone real." His honesty unsettled her deeply. Amara should have refused. Every instinct screamed danger. But she had nowhere left to go. Foster homes. Abuse. Men who lied. Cold streets. She looked around the penthouse again, imagining safety for the first time in years. "No touching," she warned. Alexander nodded immediately. "You control your boundaries." That answer surprised her. Rich men usually ignored boundaries. Yet Alexander respected them without argument. Their courthouse wedding happened quietly in Paris 3 days later. Amara wore a simple cream dress Alexander's assistant bought for her. Flashing cameras exploded outside the building anyway. Reporters screamed questions. Why marry a homeless teenager? Is she pregnant? Alexander's jaw tightened. Inside the car afterward, Amara stared silently ahead. "You regret it already," he said quietly. She whispered, "I regret believing people can be kind." At the Laurent family estate in southern France, luxury felt suffocating. Alexander's mother, Eleanor, studied Amara like dirt on expensive shoes. "You married a child from the streets," she told Alexander coldly during dinner. "How embarrassing." Amara lowered her eyes, humiliated. But Alexander placed his wine glass down sharply. "Speak to my wife respectfully," he warned. The room fell silent. It was the first time anyone defended her publicly. Late that night, Amara sat alone beside the mansion pool. Moonlight reflected across the water. Alexander joined her quietly with 2 glasses of wine. "You handled dinner well," he said. She laughed bitterly. "Your family hates me." Alexander loosened his tie slowly. "My family hates weakness. They confuse kindness with weakness." Their eyes locked for several seconds too long. Neither looked away first. Weeks passed. Alexander bought her books, art supplies, clothes, but never treated her like property. One rainy evening, he found Amara asleep on the library couch. A sketchbook rested against her chest filled with beautiful drawings. He carefully studied them, stunned by her talent. Amara woke suddenly. "Don't look." Alexander smiled faintly. Too late. For the first time since meeting him, she blushed. At a luxury charity gala in Milan, wealthy women whispered cruel things behind Amara's back. Too young. Too poor. Gold digger. Alexander noticed her discomfort immediately. Without warning, he pulled her gently closer beside him during photographs. His hand rested carefully against her waist. Protective. The cameras flashed wildly. Amara's heartbeat stumbled. For a dangerous second, the marriage stopped feeling fake. Later that night, they danced slowly beneath crystal chandeliers. Amara had never danced before. Alexander guided her carefully. "Relax," he whispered near her ear. "I won't let you fall." The orchestra music softened around them. She looked up at him and suddenly understood why women destroyed themselves for powerful men. Because sometimes powerful men looked at you like you mattered more than their empire. Back in London, Amara discovered old articles about Alexander's late fiancée, Sophia. Beautiful, elegant, dead in a car accident 7 years earlier. Suddenly, everything made sense. The emotional distance. The sadness behind his eyes. During dinner, Amara finally asked, "Did you love her?" Alexander went completely still. After a long silence, he answered quietly, "I still do." The words shattered something inside her. Amara began avoiding him afterward. She ate meals alone and spent hours wandering the city. Alexander noticed immediately. One evening, he confronted her gently in the penthouse kitchen. "What changed?" She forced a smile. "Nothing." He stepped closer. "You stopped looking at me." Her eyes filled unexpectedly. "Because I forgot this marriage belongs to a ghost." Alexander looked genuinely wounded by her words. A week later, paparazzi published photos of Alexander meeting privately with a glamorous blonde model in Rome. Headlines exploded online. Amara pretended not to care, but jealousy burned painfully inside her chest. When Alexander returned home, she confronted him coldly. "You don't owe me explanations." Alexander stared at her carefully. "Then why do you sound heartbroken?" She couldn't answer. Because she already knew the truth. That same night, Alexander finally confessed the model was negotiating a business partnership, nothing more. "You think I'd humiliate you publicly?" he asked quietly. Amara crossed her arms defensively. "Men always disappoint eventually." Alexander walked closer until only inches separated them. "I'm trying very hard not to disappoint you." The tension between them became unbearable. Her breathing shook slightly. So did his. Winter arrived. One snowy evening, electricity failed during a storm at the French estate. Candlelight filled the dark mansion. Amara sat wrapped in a blanket beside the fireplace while Alexander poured whiskey. They talked for hours about childhood pain, loneliness, fear. No billionaire mask. No fake marriage. Just two damaged people. At some point, Amara rested her head against his shoulder. He didn't move away. The next morning changed everything. Amara woke up in Alexander's arms on the couch. Neither had intended it. She pulled away quickly, embarrassed. But Alexander touched her wrist gently. "Stay." The single word sounded painfully vulnerable. She looked at him carefully, then kissed him softly before fear could stop her. His eyes closed immediately. The kiss was slow, trembling, emotional. Nothing fake remained afterward. Their relationship deepened secretly. Private breakfasts. Midnight conversations. Soft kisses in empty hallways. Amara slowly transformed from frightened homeless girl into confident young woman. Alexander watched her with quiet pride everywhere they went. Yet happiness terrified him. Love had once destroyed him completely. One evening, he whispered against her forehead, "If I lose you too, it will kill me." She felt his fear physically. Then the betrayal came. Amara accidentally overheard Eleanor speaking privately with lawyers. The marriage contract included a hidden clause. If Amara caused scandal or emotional instability, Alexander could annul everything without financial consequence. Humiliated, Amara felt used again. When Alexander returned home, she threw the papers at him angrily. "I was just another business deal." Alexander looked shocked. "I never wanted that clause." But Amara no longer trusted him. Old trauma returned violently. She packed her bags despite Alexander begging her to stay. "Please listen to me," he said desperately near the penthouse door. Tears filled her eyes. "Rich men always own everything, even people." Then she left. Alexander stood motionless in the silent apartment afterward, looking more broken than powerful for the first time in years. Months passed. Amara rebuilt her life in Manchester using her art talent. Small galleries began displaying her paintings. She finally felt independent. Yet every song, every expensive car, every winter evening reminded her painfully of Alexander. Meanwhile, tabloids reported Laurent Global losing millions. Alexander stopped attending public events completely. People whispered the billionaire had become emotionally unstable after his young wife disappeared. One evening, Amara received unexpected news. Alexander had collapsed during an important shareholders' meeting in New York from exhaustion and stress. Her chest tightened instantly. Despite everything, she still loved him. She booked a flight without thinking twice. During the entire journey, memories haunted her. His protective touch, his tired smile, the way he whispered her name like something sacred. At the hospital, Alexander looked pale and exhausted beneath white sheets. Machines beeped quietly around him. When he saw Amara standing near the doorway, emotion flashed across his face instantly. "You came," he whispered weakly. Amara nodded while fighting tears. "I tried not to." Alexander reached slowly for her hand. "I destroyed everything, didn't I?" She squeezed his fingers silently because words hurt too much. After leaving the hospital, Alexander finally revealed the complete truth. His mother added the contract clause secretly after Sophia's death because she feared another heartbreak would ruin him again. "I should have protected you from my family," he admitted painfully. Snow fell softly around them outside the hospital entrance. Amara looked into his exhausted eyes and realized he carried guilt like a permanent wound. Alexander invited her to New York one last time before she decided anything. There, he showed her a private art foundation he secretly created using her name. Scholarships for homeless young artists across Europe and America. Amara stood speechless inside the gallery space. "You believed in me before I believed in myself," she whispered emotionally. Alexander answered softly, "Because I saw your soul immediately." That night, they argued honestly for the first time. No hiding pain. No pride. Amara admitted she feared becoming dependent on love. Alexander admitted he feared abandonment more than death itself. Their voices cracked with emotion. Finally, exhausted from pretending strength, Amara broke down crying in his arms. Alexander held her tightly like she was the only thing keeping him alive. Weeks later, Eleanor unexpectedly visited Amara privately. The older woman looked strangely tired without her usual arrogance. "You changed my son," she admitted quietly. "Before you, he only survived. Now he actually lives." Amara remained cautious. Eleanor lowered her eyes briefly. "I was wrong about you." The apology felt uncomfortable but sincere. For the first time, Amara saw loneliness inside the powerful family too. On a warm spring evening in Santorini, Alexander took Amara to a quiet cliffside restaurant overlooking the sea. Candles flickered between them while music drifted through the air. Nervousness actually shook his hands. "This time," he said softly, pulling out a ring, "no contracts. No conditions. Just love." Tears filled Amara's eyes before he even finished speaking. Years later, Amara stood inside her New York art gallery while reporters photographed her newest collection. Across the room, Alexander watched proudly with silver beginning to appear in his dark hair. She walked toward him slowly through the crowd. "You saved me," she whispered emotionally. Alexander touched her face gently. "No," he replied. "We saved each other." Outside, snow began falling softly over the city that once nearly destroyed them both.